Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, October 31st, 2022. Happy Halloween! Yay. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I hope you got some work done on your projects. And if you're at home tonight and there's little ones coming around, hey, go ahead and step away, give them some candy, and let them enjoy their Halloween celebration. As you can see, I'm wearing my costume, my grumpy YouTube mechanic costume, and that's all best I can do right now. So I have my official Dickies shirt on, and that's all I can do for a costume. So I'm sure you probably all have seen the. I hope you've seen the latest video on the what I'm calling Poco, the blue Mustang, and I'm in the middle of working on the frame jig thing that's being created, and it's been fun. Doing that stuff is good for the brain. Let's put it that way. If you do enough of the same thing over and over, it just becomes monotonous and kind of boring. And I love to fabricate. I love to build things. I love to design and try to come up with newer, different ways to do things. And it's been fun having Roger come over, and we'll bounce ideas and talk about this or that and how we can make this part of the process work. And it's just fun. So my brain is kind of like just enjoying itself, spinning the gears and making everything work. So I don't know if any of you are like that or not, but that's how my brain finds joy in that sort of thing. And a lot of times, as I've mentioned before, when I have a project like this and I don't have an easy answer to something, I plant that seed in my head before I go to bed, and usually during the night my brain figures it out and says, that's how you want to do it. So that's what's working right now, and I'm really just enjoying the process. As it is, I've got the boat trailer underneath the Mustang. I think, I don't know if you all saw there's, come back here, you can see it currently. It's underneath the Mustang. And I've got some ideas as to how to level everything out. And I've been looking at, I forgot to bring it out with me, the drawings for the frame jigs stuff. Well, the frame drawings, let's say. And on one hand, I think that's a great thing. But on the other hand, I'm like, well, is it really going to matter? Because I'm kind of doing my own thing. As long as I have everything level, it shouldn't make much difference. So anyway, I'm kind of excited about doing this type of thing. I just fabrication, welding, yay! Okay, so let's see who's here tonight. We've already got 30 people watching. If you would, hit the like button, okay? I'll give you a bell in advance if you hit the like button. That helps YouTube know that, hey, people are watching this and they're involved, and so by all means check it out and or hit that button for me. So first in tonight is Ed Cucciarella. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween to you, Ed. I hope you have some kids show up. We never have any kids show up at our house anymore. I don't know if we've only had like 2 in our entire 30 some years that we've lived here, because our driveway is long and it's just not worth it for those kids to make the trek all the way up there just to get a couple pieces of candy. So it's okay. It's okay. My wife eats all the candy. Steve Grimes. Good evening, Barry and gang, from a warm South Central PA. Glad you're here, Steve. Hope all is well with you. Terry Keithley. Happy Halloween, everyone. And Barry, please hit the thumbs up and like button. Thank you kindly. Yes, by all means. Thank you, Terry. Mr. Mikey, 1949. I should really learn to spell. I mean to say spooky day, cool car, glad to be here. So was there something else you had said? Or are you just redoing it? Because that's the only comment that I see, but I'm glad you're here. I meant to say spooky day. Okay, so I don't know if it didn't come through or what. Rick Gain, happy Halloween, was much more fun as a kid, though. Yeah. And we probably got away with a lot more stuff when we were kids, too. Toilet paper, stuff, messing up people's... Yeah. Anyway, glad you're here, Rick. Troy Justit. Good evening, Barry and Barriettes from really warm coastal Georgia. I like the picture of a 69. Yes, that was a car that was at SEMA a few years ago. couple years ago, a few years ago when I went. Uh, Amazing car, amazing. I think it's the Ring Brothers. I think is who made that car. But yeah, very cool. Robert checking in. Evening all. Glad you're here, Robert. Hope the weather isn't too bad out there in Texas. Glad you're here. Nandu. Good evening, Barry and everyone. Glad you're here, Nandu. Ray Buckman. Good afternoon, Barry and all. Hope everyone's Monday was fair. Yeah, I'd say it was fair. That's probably about it. Fair. Bob Shoemaker. Good evening all from Oklahoma. Glad you're here, Bob. Jack W. Happy Halloween, Barry. Just getting back to the car since April. Woo! I'm sure you're ready to rock and roll on it. I'm sure you're ready to rock and roll. So here's a motivational bell for you, Jack. Glad you're here. Dawn's Manufacturer. Hello, everyone. Hope Use is doing fine back in PDX and 54 degrees and raining, of course. Well, I'm glad you made it back from Hawaii. I hope you had a good trip. That's one of my goals. I want to go to Hawaii at some point, but I also want to go to Europe, and I'd love to go to Australia one day. Yeah. So here's a bell for hoping. Glad you're here, Dawn. Crash Rider, good evening from Southern Indiana. Give her favorite ghoul a big thumbs up by hitting the like button. Thank you, Crash Rider. And Roger checking in. Greetings from next door. Harvey checking in. Happy Halloween, Barry. Happy Halloween to you, Harvey. I saw those pictures you had posted of the, I guess it was at the fire station, trick-or-treating with the kids and stuff. I hope that's what I assume it was. Glad you're doing that sort of thing. That's always fun to interact with the kids in the neighborhood and let them get around the fire trucks. Troy just said, I'm curious what kind of toys are in the boxes, Barry. Oh, well, that's something that you're talking about these boxes. That's the solar generator kit that I ordered. I'm going to be doing an unboxing of that kit on my other channel. And that was one of those things, I think I talked about it, where it's a solar powered generator. And the idea is that we all know how it is with gas. Like they're trying to get rid of gas and they're trying to force us to do things that we don't want or need to do for no other reason for them to control us. Anyway, so when I have a gas powered generator, and that's all well and good as long as you have gas to run the thing, right? And so I've been following this company. I think it's Blue Eddy is the name of it. They've been advertising some of their products, and basically it's an inverter and a battery deal. And I'm waiting on the other part of the order, which was solar panels. The idea is I can use the energy of the sun to charge up that system so that if we do need power, I can run my well pump, I can run my refrigerator and freezer and stuff like that. And that's kind of the goal. So more on that later. That's going to be, again, on my other channel, JD's Workshop. But good question, Troy. I'm glad you're here. Busted Knuckle Garage, hello from Alabama. And Tommy. Glad you're here, Tommy. It's a good name for a garage. I know that much. 68 Orange Crate, watching and... Wait a minute. Let me look at the next comment. Watching and handing out candy. Okay, that sounds a lot better. He had the word handling. And no, handing out candy. David Outdoor 74. Hey, Barry. Glad you're here. David, looks like you've got a John Deere mower on your thumbnail, so maybe you've got something going on with that. So, let's see. Simone, happy Halloween. Glad you're here, Simone. And if I miss you with a bell, you can share with some other people. Sorry. David Outdoors finally finished building our laundromat here in the Syracuse area. Well, that's okay. I'll give you a bell for that. That's good. Took 7 months. Ooh. Yeah, that's a lot of work by the sounds of it. And happy Halloween. Thank you. Paul Lee. Hey, Barry. Hey, Paul. Glad you're here. Jack W. Thank you. I need it. Yeah, well, you got the parts and you got the car and just have to get out there and get involved. Make it happen. Robert, Jerry is at Daughters in Charlotte because she likes giving out candy to the kids. None here as it's like your place and not worth it for them. Yeah. Anymore, like our houses are spread apart, big spaces between us on our street, and it's just not worth it. You know, our driveway, I don't know, it's 150 feet, 200 feet long. I don't even know. Um, Kids don't want to trek up there, go get a piece of little candy, whatever. But there's neighborhoods around us where they've got the dense housing where you can like just like skip over the strip of grass between the buildings, and you're at the next neighbor's house, so you can get all the candy you want. In fact, some friends of ours, it's a really nice neighborhood. They have these houses that look like they were built in the 50s, but they're all brand new, very modern. And apparently they get hammered with kids. Like they make it sound like there's almost like busloads of kids that show up just to go through their neighborhood and clean them out. So it's all well and good stuff. Let's see, Dawn. Sorry for not having a video for this week, folks. Well, that's okay. You were in Hawaii. Hey, I probably wouldn't have a video either if I was enjoying myself in Hawaii. So, as we're looking at the Mustang project and doing all this stuff, I had a lot of people ask me on the video whether I was going to be working on this car, and that's not the goal at this point. The goal is to get the frame jig built, and I was thinking about this even to the point of, if you remember, I did that video for Charlie for the '67 GTA, and I almost kind of want to offer the option to use the trailer jig to him, because I know he's got some work ahead of him to get that car fixed. And so I'm really in the back of my mind thinking maybe he could use this to help him out. Maybe. The other thing is, when I do get to the point of doing the 67 that I want to turn into a fastback, I think the jig setup will be really nice. Just be a nicer setup. I just want to make everything a little more structured and rigid, and I think it's going to help a lot when that time comes. As it is, I've got probably most of it figured out in my mind, and I've got 4 jacks that were for a camper. That's going to go underneath the jig itself and square it up whenever it comes time, because right now it's sitting on one axle and it has the roll around tongue up front. Well, that's not going to be very stable when it comes time to work on the car and do stuff. So I'm going to have those 4 camper jacks underneath it, crank them up, and it really isn't going to matter much if those, I mean, ideally you want it all level, but as long as I have the car squared up on the frame jig, it's not going to matter much, because I'm kind of replicating what is already there, if you know what I mean. So if I need to take out a frame rail, if I have the jig built correctly, I can take the frame rail out, put another one in, reset the jig, and it should be fine. Should be. We all know how that goes. There's always something that gets in your way. So that's where Roger and I have been looking at this thing, thinking, okay, what's a practical way to make it strong, but also make it something you can take pieces out. So whenever you're looking at removing the front frame rail, you don't want a rigid piece that you can't get the frame rail out of the way. And in fact, I see Steve has shown up. So Steve, I'm not sure how to say your last name. I'm going to say Owlette. That's my guess. I think you had sent me a video of from like 9 years ago. Pretty good video of people that are building like the Eleanor cars. You know, they're taking they're putting these pieces together, and it's a great video, and it shows some good detail in my mind of what I need to look at for the process of building a jig. Now, the difficulty with my idea versus what they're doing is they're basically building a car. They're taking individual pieces, and rather than buy a full Dynacorn floor pan, they're hand assembling all of the pieces, which I like, because then it takes some of the guesswork out of it. And in that process, they're building, and then they're going to lift the car off the jig. Where in my mind, I want to be able to remove parts of the jig to remove parts of the car. So it kind of has to work a different way. But the great information, I'm glad you shared that with me. And I've looked at several others and ideas that other people are using. And again, it comes down to functionality. What can I design that I can support the car in one way and remove pieces so that I could, if I want to remove a frame rail, I'm not having to do something crazy to make it happen. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at with the design phase. Rick, just curious, what would it cost to buy a frame jig? Is something like that available? Just wondering. I'm sure that there's something out there for a frame jig, right? That you can buy jigs. I've looked them up, and you can buy a jig kind of kit, let's say. I've seen those before, and it's kind of universal, where you could make it fit whatever vehicle you wanted. And I'm not against that at all. I think it's a great idea. But I think my focus primarily is going to be on Mustangs. So my jig is going to be for the Mustang bodies, at least 65 to 68. Now, the thing you run into is if somebody's going to build a big, heavy, serious jig, they need to have the space for that jig to either sit or be moved somewhere else and be out of the way. If you have a shop with 5,000 square feet or 6,000 square feet, you can push that jig over in a corner. You can have wheels on it, roll it around. Me, I'm limited. I don't have that kind of space. And so my vision is by using that trailer, I can hook to it with a truck and pull it outside and just let it sit outside. It's out of my way. It's mobile. So that's why I'm doing it on a trailer. I think that there's a lot of people have the same situation. Yes, I have room in here, but not enough to store the thing. I had enough trouble with not trouble with the dolly that I had for the convertible car. That was something I could take apart and put in a corner. But a real serious frame jig is going to be made out of usually like 2x4 square tubing, lots of cross bracing. Some will even have adjustable screw jacks type of things that you can use. And I'm going to have something along those lines. But mobility is the thing. And if I want to, let's say I want to take this out and get it media blasted, I could take the whole thing. I could take the trailer, have the car on the trailer without any suspension, nothing underneath it. Boom, blast the whole thing, bring it back. It's still on the jig. It's still square. So that's kind of where I'm at with my design and my thoughts. But good question, Rick. And Steve says close enough. Well, I don't know how else to say it, because you got 3 vowels in the beginning there. So I tried. Sorry if I got it wrong, but I'll go close enough. Circus Bear. Hi, Barry. I'm welding in half floor pan on my 67 Cougar. Half floor pan. Okay, so you're doing like driver's side floor pan or passenger side floor pan, or are you doing front to rear? Like half of, or like a quarter? Because some people do that too. They do the just a small section. Lap weld in front, like stock pan, but world seems divided on lap versus butt welding along the tunnel. Want to know your thoughts if you would pay more for a car with a butt weld versus a lap weld. Okay, let me give you some perspective on that. Let me verbalize this a certain way. If you had the factory car, was it a solid panel all the way across the tranny tunnel, or did they have little areas with cutouts in between? Did they make it like a ribbon, like you had a short section that was solid, and then you had a slit, and then you had a solid section, and then a slit, and then a solid section? How was it built? My opinion, I'm not going to do I want to see it all solid, of course. And butt welding is great if you can get the alignment dead on. And I was misreading what you were saying, because some people, I will say this, some people will do a lap weld, and this is what was coming to mind. Some will do a lap weld and they'll do it in sections. That's why I was thinking. I've seen a lot of people do that. They'll do it in sections, whereas a butt weld is a solid formation. Okay, so what I do is I do a lap weld, but I fully weld it all the way across. If you do a butt weld, you've got to make sure your everything is laid in right, and the floor pans generally are not 100% accurate. So you end up with some sort of offset anyway. And by doing a panel where you lap it over top and weld that edge, which I've shown in my videos, that allows you to have a complete weld and a lot of reinforcement on that weld. And then on the underside, if you wanted to, you could weld the bottom side if you wanted. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll grind down the leftover of the lap. Let's say if it has any kind of deflection that makes it look weird, I'll grind it down on the bottom side, paint it, and then seam seal it so it blends in somewhat. Yeah, that's what Steve was just saying. You can weld both sides of the lap weld. It's plenty strong, probably either way, but I tend to just focus on the top. But yeah, you could do the bottom as well. But I have seen people, like I did that, the 68, the other 68 Camaro, the black one. And this is what I was thinking about whenever you're saying the lap is, like people will do it in sections. If you go back to that Camaro video, I literally took my foot and stomped the floor pan out of the car. I didn't cut anything loose. I didn't do anything other than boom, stomp that floor pan. And all those welds, the little welds they had, more like tacks, holding that whole floor pan in, because they had covered it in seam sealer and everything. So it looked good. But I stomped that thing and the whole floor pan came out. And on a Camaro in particular, that's critical. That whole floor pan supports the frame structure because it's got a bolt-in frame. And so all that stuff, if you've gone over a bump, a speed bump or something, it's possible that whole thing could have just flexed and pushed the floor up into the passenger area. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my opinion. Yeah, Steve says a modular jig. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Shark Spear, thanks, Barry. Appreciate your help. Yes. Yeah, I want that thing as solid as I can have it. Ray, are the tires and axles going to be a problem as in getting in the way of the trailer? That was a concern. And I got to a point where I was struggling with that thought. Because I was like, man, did I think this through the right way? There's a couple answers to that. One, I could take the axle, because right now it's on top of the leaf spring. I could put the axle underneath the leaf spring, but that elevates the frame a lot. And then that creates a height issue. Like you don't want to have it so high that you can't work on a thing. So then I was thinking, what else can I do? And then it hit me. The arms on the frame machine are removable. Duh. You can, because it just has those pins that it rotates on. So all I have to do is get it low enough that I have enough clearance that I can take the arm and just pull the pin out, take the whole arm out of the way. Boom. I can slide it out. Now the other alternative is I could try to manipulate the arms to where they are on the pinch welds of the body. Right now they're under the torque boxes. But if I brought them out to the pinch weld, that may alleviate some of it as well. But I would still have, that would help clear up some of the where I have to put the supports in. But I think I would probably still have to take the arms off the lift. So that's the option. I think there may be a chance, now that I'm kind of looking at it as well, if I come out to the rocker panel pinch weld, it's very likely I could swing the arms all the way out past center, let's say, away from the center, the main post. And I think that might actually give me enough clearance as well. So that was a concern, but I think I have it figured out. Good question. Doyle, I created a flange tool on both quarters and fender patch. So you created, I'm guessing you say you created a flange tool, or did you create a flange? using a flange tool. I'm guessing that's what we're talking about. I'm going to make a copy here because we're gonna have Robert, give him an invite, see what he's been up to. Okay. Now we're back. Anyway, so I'm assuming you meant you created a flange using a flange tool. I'm assuming. And with a flange tool. Oh, there it says. Okay, sorry. Yes, those are handy. That flange tool is very handy. Robert Bloxham. Hello, all. Hello, Robert. Glad you're here. And we'll probably have the other Robert showing up pretty soon, and we can see what he's been working on. But anyway, these are great questions, and with the design that I have in mind, again, using this trailer, you're gonna see just how well I think this is all going to work out. Because a lot of these jigs I've seen, they take all the front suspension out from under it, and this one I think I can actually leave all the front suspension in, but I'll probably have to pull the steering box and the idler arm so that I can use those as mount points for some of the vertical supports. So, Rick, I had my ice cream cone earlier, but I'm considering having another one. Well, why not, Rick? Why not? Ice cream sounds really good. I may have to do that later. Colin, late to the party. Hey, everyone. Glad you're here, Colin. Hope all is well. Let me get a little sip of my favorite coffee for my new favorite cup. Just saying. March Indy gave me this cup. Yep. So, I like it. I like it a lot. Let's see. Harvey, you might try making bolt-on fixtures like the ones on a fixture system for a collision frame machine. Well, that's kind of what I'm working towards. I think at this point, I see you, Robert. I think at this point I'm going to make the rear or the forward, where the leaf spring mounts, the front leaf spring mount, that's going to be rigid. Because I don't think that's ever really going to change. So that's going to be a rigid location. The rear leaf spring mount is probably going to end up a post with a piece of threaded rod on top of it and some jam nuts so that I can change that slightly if I need to. And then the forward one for where the steering box or the idler arm mount, again, that one I'm probably going to make it removable. And then the very forward one, which will go where the bumper mounts, those are going to be removable as well. So I think the only one that's going to be, say, permanent is the forward shackle mounts or forward spring mount. Ray, so I'm sure everyone has heard of the diesel shortage. That's really going to mess up parts delivery. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It definitely is causing a problem, and we need to do something about it. Just saying. Ed Cucharella, seeing your coffee mug, I would like to remind all in the U.S. to vote. Yes, vote, like your future depends on it. Okay, we're going to bring Robert on and see what he's working on. So he's out in the garage, and
I'm back. I'm still alive.
Okay.
I know I haven't made a
let me see if
video
I can
in
change
months.
this. There we go.
I know it's been a while since I made a video too, but
Well, yeah.
it got hot and then life got in the way and we tried to go on vacation. She got us both sick. We drove home, and then everything else. I had to go to Memphis last week and pick up stuff and
But you've got some cool stuff in Memphis, though.
well, Little Rock. I stopped on the way. I got actually right over there. I got a pair of the mid-eye leaf springs. 75 bucks for the pair of them, almost like new. I mean, almost like new. I got well here. I got these too.
Oh.
These little guys here. They're not
Yeah.
perfect. They got some issues around the mounting holes, but
Yeah.
For the price,
Well, were your other ones really bad?
oh yeah, they're basically not usable. But these here, other than like just right around the mounting holes, the rest of them are perfect. The rest of it's perfect. It's like I can deal with the mounting holes.
Yeah.
That's not a big deal. My other two were just they're broken. I mean, just bent.
Yeah,
Totally bent and cracked, and it's $50 for the pair. I'm not complaining.
oh no. And
And
those are OEM?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.
He threw in a brand new was a wiper switch in the box. Got some trim, a couple other little odds and ends. I'm not complaining. You know,
No.
yeah, $125 for all that. And I mean, the springs alone are quite a bit more than that. So that was a good deal. That was a good deal.
Good.
But I'm starting to make a list of more stuff to get. So
Never ending.
yeah, I got to get some square tubing because I got to do some reinforcements underneath the pinch welds. You know, I'm uh, I've seen a lot of them done. Right, it said the pinch weld and the floor pan, and you put 1 by 1 inch square tubing under there, weld it up under there, and basically just gives you can put a floor jack anywhere under the pinch weld, and you're not going to hurt anything. You don't have to,
Okay.
and you don't see it. It
Oh,
doesn't
yeah, you're putting it at the bottom of the pinch weld.
at the bottom on the inside,
Right.
on the floor pan side.
Right.
And they sell kits to where you can put that rail here, and then say your subframe connectors, and then you can parallel across them with braces. I'm not planning on doing that. I just like the idea of being able to take a floor jack, and I don't have to think about where I put it because you know how these things are so fragile.
Yeah.
Where you put the floor jack in. And then if I end up taking it somewhere and getting tires or something, at least when they put it on their little lift that lifts it up with the pinch welds, I don't have to worry about it.
Let me tell you, I almost had a horror story on that. Um, I had I had a '69 Camaro that was from Arizona, and it was basically a rust-free Camaro.
Hmm.
Hugger orange, black hood. That's what the hood is on the back wall. Um, black stripes, all that stuff. And somehow I ended up. I needed some tires on it, and for whatever reason, I went to Sam's Club to get my tires. They
Hmm.
had a good price on them or something. And I get there, and of course these guys are like, "Ooh, looking at the car," and I'm okay. Put on the lift. They lift the thing up, and whatever they did, I don't know, but the whole car went like
Mm.
it slipped off of something, and I about lost it. I'm like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
Hmm.
And then of course they went to put the wheels on. They got out there like 3/4 inch impact. They're getting ready to ram. I said, no, 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 no. You're not going to do that. I stopped them and I made them get out. In fact, I don't know if they had torque sticks back then, but torque wrench.
Yeah.
And I said, look it up, get it right, because you're not doing that.
Yeah, and the
So
and the place here just has the drive over lifts that have just the rubber pads that come up.
yeah,
So I'm not too worried about that, but I'm still gonna watch them if I have it done. And it's just
right.
you have to. And
Well, what I've run into typically, what I do now is I'll put my personal vehicle, I'll bring it in or whatever, put it on jack stands. I'll pull all four tires off, drive them to the
Mhm.
place, put tires on. I don't want you touching anything else. And I bring them home. I put them on
Mhm.
myself. I don't
Well,
like having anybody
it's
else do that.
no. Fortunately, we've got one that they just built one here in town,
Yeah,
so it's like right down the street. So it's like now it's convenient to do that kind of stuff
yeah,
once it opens. But it's just like I said, these cars are just they're so fragile. It's just like where do you lift, where do you do, and it's
yeah.
like picking up an airplane. It really is.
Well, yeah. You got to. Yeah, good point. So Dave Conville's checking in. Glad to hear Dave. Give you a Dave Bell, and let me see what Denny Alvey has to say. Hey Barry, I worked at a local body shop. We had a Selite frame bench with bolt-on fixtures. We would rent the fixtures for the various cars that we did framework on. Okay, I know. Whenever we had the body shop, we had the frame J or frame. We didn't have we had a frame machine for pulling wrecks, and so we had the
Hmm.
clamp, pinch weld clamps, and all that sort
Hmm.
of thing, um, which would be great. But in this case, no, it's not going to work for me. But
See,
I like the idea.
what I'm thinking for some of your stuff, like if you've got, say, we got a beam in the middle, and we've got something over here we want to, a point that we want to use. My thought would be put a flat plate here, a heavy flat plate, make a beam that comes off with your support, and then but that beam that comes off has another flat plate. So you're plate to plate, two bolts. Once it's in place where you want it, then drill two holes and use alignment pins in there. So that way you could take it off, put it on, and you've got two solid alignment pins, kind of like a dowel and a block dowels, for transmission
Yeah,
stuff like that. And that way you've got two solid alignment pins, so you can take that off, just take it off, and when you put it back on, it's going to be perfect because it doesn't have anywhere else to go. It can't
right.
twist, it can't do anything.
Yeah, I think what the biggest dilemma of using something like this or creating this is I'm going to make it fit this particular car,
Mm-hmm.
and then hope that the next one I put on lines up with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to measure and try to calculate, make sure I feel like everything's in the right place because you've probably seen the video and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
The floor supports don't even have dents in them.
No, and that's rare.
Yeah,
That's really rare because they're normally dented up from everybody putting a floor jack underneath
yeah.
their jack stand or something. Yeah.
The rear frame rails, everything looks like it's just fantastic, and so that's why I'm using this car rather than the other one
Mm-hmm.
that I had, and I think it's going to be pretty good. But I get what you're saying, and in some ways, I'm trying to use that angle.
Mm-hmm.
Like the video that I had seen that Steve sent me. Of course, they were building a car from random
Mm-hmm.
pieces, and so that's all great. But if
Yeah,
you have
and
to work on something,
exactly. And I've thought the same thing. It's just like, well, okay, kind of replicate sort of what they had at the factory. Is like I got a pin that's got a shoulder on it, and all the pieces, all those alignment holes, and you just set the pieces on there,
right,
and it just all sets in place, kind of like the factory did, and then weld it together.
right,
You know, but
and
like you said, to work on it,
you can't do that.
unless you cut it off before you put it on the jig.
Yeah, but even then,
Even then, but then, oh, I got to take it back off again. I got to go over and under and this, and then put it all back on, and
right,
then weld it in place, and then take it off to get the next piece in,
right.
and you're constantly going back and forth, just trying to weave it in there.
So as one example, like in the front frame rail, in the video I saw they used a piece of bar stock with two holes, and they had a spacer to keep it away from the angle on the frame,
Mm-hmm.
because it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So they had spacers, and that was a good idea. But let's think about how you actually get the frame rail out of there. Is it something you're going to be able to go this direction or
Mm-hmm.
that direction or whatever? So what I'm thinking is I'm using I don't know if it's 1.5 by 3
Mm-hmm.
square tubing, and then I've got some 2 by 2 square tubing. Well, I'm going to put the 1 by 3 or 1.5 whatever vertically, weld it into the frame of the boat trailer,
Mm-hmm.
and then the square piece I'm going to notch it. I think at this point, so it's going to slide over
Mm-hmm.
that piece. That gives you your vertical.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have a piece of angle iron welded onto the plate that's on the trailer, so it stops it from
Mm-hmm.
going in and out.
Yep.
And then have a piece of 1-inch square tubing and two bolts going into the frame.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that can just be unbolted and pull it out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, I'll do something similar with where the steering box and the idle arm attach. Because I've seen the other video, they just have a plate
you're
on the inside.
so you're going to use those two locating holes for the idler arm.
Yeah, either
As-
one or
as-
two. I don't know
or-
yet. Because if I
okay.
weld it solid, as long as it's on the inside, it doesn't matter. Because I can
Yeah,
take
'cause you
I can slide the frame rail forward, or I can angle it out, and then I can come back in. So that one can probably be rigid as well. So these are just some of the
Oh yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah, because because we've talked about it, here and there, and just, you come up with different ideas that, oh, if you do it this way, oh, that's great. But like you said, this, whatever you come up with, that's great for building a new car,
Yeah,
but not for fixing one.
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's where Roger and I were talking about earlier. Let me show you what I'm gonna probably use in the rear. I could either use the shackle mount as a locating point, but if I take some 2-inch square tubing, some 3/4 inch all thread, I can have that inside. Oops, sorry. Have that inside of this, and then I could turn the all thread down into this, so that I have clearance to get the rail out.
That's kind of like how we did my balancers on my rotisserie. It was the same
Yeah.
same thing with that threaded rod like that. Yeah, and those shackle mounts are a really good mount to just hold everything in place, even for a if you want to build a rotisserie, if you can, those are good mounts to do that with.
Right.
Those two mounts and the ones in the front, as long as you're like up by the engine, in the front. But I couldn't use those, so because they're just in the way for what I wanted. So
Right. Well, and there's also the floor supports. They've got index holes in
hmm
those. So I've thought about making a lighter duty accessory piece
hmm
that would locate the floor support, so
hmm
that you could take it out of the way. You
hmm
could put the floor support in and put this piece up underneath it,
and
and it
then
gives you that
well,
height.
and then the pan has that same hole above for the that alignment hole goes through the floor support into the bottom of the pan as well.
I'm not sure it does actually. I was looking at that earlier, and I took that rod and I put it up through,
Uh-huh.
and I was hitting metal. I was hitting floor.
I wonder if that's a 5/6 thing then.
I
Because
don't know. It
the
might
five
be.
the fives and sixes have the hole all the way through
I'm gonna go
front.
look. I'm
On the
gonna go
front
look
anyway.
because I want to know now. And well, actually, you know what? There is a hole there. There is a hole there, but there's a plug in it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
there's one of the
maybe
little
what I was
five.
hitting was that plug. So
Yeah.
yeah, that would all help.
Yeah, because at the factory they would have just, like we were talking earlier, it would have all just been kind of stacked on all those pins and piece after
Yeah.
piece, and then something, they get to the next stage and go at it with your spot welder and start going.
Well, what I was surprised watching another video that Steve had sent, it was a '67. The video is from like 2013,
Mm-hmm.
and they were apparently pumping out Eleanor clones,
Mm-hmm.
is what they were doing. And it was kind of cool. The video was not great,
Mm-hmm.
but it had some detail in it. But what I thought was cool was these guys were building the floor pan. They weren't buying a Dynacorn pan. They were buying the individual pieces.
Did the pan exist at that time?
13, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I
I
think so.
just
Because I did one of those. I
okay.
did one back in 2007, I think.
Okay. I just could not remember when those, the
Yeah.
full pan became available.
But what they point out is by them doing it the way they did, they set the frame rails in, locked them in, the rear frame
Mm-hmm.
rails. They put the lower half of the transition pan in for the shocks, and they could weld all inside of that as well
Mm-hmm.
and make that really solid, and then put everything else, stack it all up. And it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
cool to see the video because maybe I can send you the link later. They had the back half done, and then they built the front half using pre-built jig or frame rails with shock towers and everything already on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had those in place, and then they put the sides on, they put the floor.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool to watch.
I will
So
say on those frame rails, the pre-assembled ones, with the aprons and everything, I've seen guys that have bought them, put them in their car, they fit fine. And I've seen other guys that have had to go and disassemble them and move everything around to make them fit.
yeah, yeah.
It seems to be hit or miss, like a lot of that stuff.
Let me get caught up here. We
Mm-hmm.
have Simone says, "I need new tires, and I will be doing the same barrier. I have a torque wrench in the car." Yep. Yeah, I don't
Mm-hmm.
trust those guys.
No.
Roger, we could use diamond pins if we need to, but I'm not sure we need to at this point. Okay. Probably not. Rick Gain, where is the proper place to pick up a 60s Mustang when using a twin post lift? What I do is I go to you've got the torque box in the front, which overlaps the
If
floor
you have
support.
them.
If you have them, which overlaps the floor support. Okay. So I have used that forward section of the floor support where it interacts with the frame rail because it's overlapped and
Hmm.
it's got a lot of layered stuff there. So that's a good point there.
Hmm.
In the rear, you have the rear torque box. You just have to make sure you clear the spring shackle
Hmm.
and or the fuel line. You don't want to get caught in those two. Otherwise, I would go to the pinch welds underneath where the rocker panels come together. Go to the fore and aft of the pinch welds and lift it from there. So
And
those are the locations that I would use. Otherwise, you're risking
yeah,
messing stuff up.
and
So
if you've got a solid car, use the front engine cross member. You can put a jack right underneath the engine cross member, pick it up from there, because essentially that's where the car is essentially being held anyway by the wheels.
yeah,
You think about it, when you pick, you put it underneath that cross member, lift it up. You're putting stress in the same place that the front tires do on the rest of the car.
yeah,
And there's some aftermarket ones that have a nice little pad, a little flat pad welded on it to
right,
make it easier.
right.
But also, if you look at the Ford stuff, they'll even say, go to the torque boxes, but put, a piece of plywood or something in there with so many square inches of area to
To
spread
spread
the
it out.
load.
Yeah,
What it
yeah.
is exactly, I don't remember. I slept since then, so I don't remember.
Well, I know that for me, I've had good luck with my pads on my post are really big,
Yeah,
so it spreads the load pretty good. But that's a good question. That's a good
yeah,
question.
but yeah, floor jacks don't have, but yeah, a little
Right,
big pad. Yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah. Piece of plywood is always good.
Steve says save a lot of money doing your own floor pan assembly. Yes, and
Hmm.
that's something I've been thinking about it. I'm like, well, if I build this jig,
Hmm.
could I start making some floor pans? If it's accurate and I'm happy with it,
Hmm.
could I start making some floor pans for
Well,
people?
because those are what, $2,500 now or something like that.
I
I
think they're
haven't
more
looked
than that.
recently. I mean, the last time I looked, they used to be like two grand for a while, and then I haven't paid
Well,
attention.
I think the first one I bought was like $1,700 or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. Lately, I just haven't paid attention because I don't want to know.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
then you add in the shipping, you
Yeah.
know, which they're going to get you on the other pieces anyway.
Hmm.
If you do the shipping. Um,
Unless you're fortunate enough to live near somewhere you can just go pick it up.
yeah, exactly. Steve says Mustang Fear independent front suspension front
Hmm.
subframe has a jack pad built into the core support. That's cool. That's a
Hmm.
plus.
Yeah, and there's a guy on one of the forums, Z-Ray, I think is his name, and he makes a really nice front cross member. It even has it's like a recreation of what was it, the Boss 3021 or something like that. Somebody that remembers that stuff will correct me there, but it's one of those, and it has where the mounting points are for the on either end for the control arms. It has the eccentric adjusters there as well. So you add not only do you put that nice brace in there, but you now have adjustability,
Yeah,
which you didn't have before.
right.
And it's a really well made, really nice brace. I mean, you can't ask for any better. It is
Yeah.
really nice.
Roger was saying that the diamond shaped pins are like dowel pins, but they only hard locate in one direction, lateral or vertical. I guess I haven't seen those before, so I'd have to check those out. And again, it may not be that critical with what I'm doing.
And I
Oh,
figure if your car is good enough that things fit and work, the jig will probably be fine on another car. You may have an issue with, well, this one doesn't quite line up in this spot, and that's where it would
right,
be nice to have some things that may be removable just in case something doesn't line up.
right.
Because we're talking ballpark here. So
Yeah, and I'm more of like I'm not ballpark. I'm space shuttle.
but the way they did them at the factories, it's like, how do we know that the jig at this plant was the same as the jig at that plant?
Well, good point.
We don't.
You know,
You
I was
know.
looking at the drawings that I saw on forums. There are several drawings out there, and I
Hmm.
know some people say this drawing isn't right or this drawing isn't right. I don't know what the right drawing
If
is.
you look at all of them, compare the numbers between them all, and then you'll get an idea of which
Well,
ones start to make a consensus of the measurements, and then
yeah,
measure your own car, and then it's like, okay, that one obviously is wrong.
right.
Some of the measurements, like from what is it, the
They
I'm
go
trying to
from the
remember.
shackle mount to the
Yeah,
back corner.
the angle ones back there. And you look at some of the numbers, it's like, oh, such and such, like, okay, that hole doesn't exist on a 65 and 66. It just
Yeah.
doesn't exist, but yet they have a measurement for it. It's like, well, it may have at some point, but you have to use the 7/8 dimensions on the 5/6 for that because the hole doesn't exist on the car.
Right.
And so I guess it was one of those, we made the drawing. Well, this is what we meant to make the part like, and it never happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Wally says full floor
Oh,
pan, $26.99 on sale from $29.99 CJ Pony. So I wonder what it would cost
and parts.
in parts. I mean, because you're really just floor support, floor pans, full floor pan, the rear torque box assembly with the frame rails,
Mm-hmm.
the transition panel, and then the full transition. You can buy that whole floor
Yeah,
pan.
yeah, the whole piece.
So if somebody
Uh,
else has time, they can do the math on that.
yeah, yeah, you have to sit there and figure all that, and then get the rockers.
But the thing is, as you said, like Dynacorn has made these things, and is the quality control good? I don't know. I mean, you hope it is.
Yeah.
You hope that they've got it right. Maybe there's some value to
Mhm.
doing it, kind of
And
how I see it.
well, yeah, because and all the knowledge we have is reverse engineering.
Yeah,
The original dimensions, probably, if they exist, they're in somebody's attic. Who
yeah,
knows?
yeah,
If that stuff even exists anymore.
yeah. Simone says, "Good night, everyone. I'm hoping for good weather tomorrow, as I need to change my front grille and taillights on the Rover, and fit engine spacers and the side stand on the Kawasaki." Well, glad you're here,
Ooh,
Simone.
fun.
Have a good night, and we'll see you next Monday, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
Busted knuckle transmission tunnel will be a problem building your own. Not with a full floor pan. That's all part of it.
Yeah, and the full floor pan is still not badly priced.
No.
Last time I checked, it was not bad, and I could go down to Summit and pick one up
Well,
because
that's
they
yeah,
have two different brands. They're both the same.
yeah. But yeah, because that's what I would rather do now if I'm doing a pan,
Hmm.
or if I need to replace both pans. I would rather just get the full floor pan, and that way it's
Hmm.
clean. It's all done.
It,
So I
it
think
it might not be perfect, but it's all one piece and it's all new.
yeah,
But I would say if I was building a car from scratch, no matter what it was, I would be using a convertible pan and convertible rockers, and I would just build it that way, just because of the strength that you get.
yeah,
And you don't have to do, I mean, it's ideal to do like the convertible seat pans because it's a one piece that goes across and then the pieces underneath. That's ideal, but you don't have to if it's not a convertible because you're already gaining a lot to start with.
oh yeah,
And those parts there are very expensive for very simple parts.
yeah,
For what if you've just got one sitting there, it's like, oh, I could copy that and make it, kind of thing. They're not that complicated on the bottom pieces.
right,
One of them is just a little flat piece of steel. And last I saw, one of them was like 60, $70. This is just a flat piece of steel cut out with holes in it. And I'm like, no.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I had somebody message me the other day talking about the rocker panels. They were building a car, kind of like I
Mm-hmm.
did with the convertible, and they ran into the problem where the rocker panels are too wide again,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're gonna have to cut them up and push them together to make them work.
Mm-hmm.
But
You're
you
talking
wonder, like,
too top to bottom, too wide.
no, they're too wide from
Oh, too.
inner rocker to out,
Yeah.
and so stuff
Yeah.
doesn't line up.
Mm-hmm.
And they're having to split it and take out like a quarter inch and push it in and then weld it back together. I don't understand why they can't. What's the deal? Why is that so hard to make it the right shape? You've
And
already got the die.
yeah, and
It should be tuned to that.
it must be just the way they may not be. I wonder if they're just not stamping it. They don't have enough force behind it, and they can't get the bend to bend all the way like it should
Well,
be.
it's not a bend issue. It's a length. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
when
yeah,
it comes up from the rocker, curves up, and then you got the joggle that comes in where
yeah,
you meet
yeah,
into
yeah,
your
yeah.
floor pan. That's
Or
too wide.
or or it's one of these. It's a because a lot of that is you stamp it here. Well, and then the factory would have been, we stamp it here. Then there's another second part that comes in. I'm wondering if on some of this stuff we're doing it. We do this on one machine. We take it off. We go to this other machine over here, and we've got to set it in here and do the next bend
It's
instead of it being
possible.
constrained and all done in one jig. They may be doing multi steps, and if you don't hold it in the right place in the jig, it's not going to bend it right.
It's possible. However, what I see is because it's a curved piece, right? You've got a curve with a
Mm-hmm.
flange on the bottom. It should come around like you're not limited by your shape.
Mm-hmm.
Like it should be something that when you compress it around it, the peel off is it just rotates back out
Mm-hmm.
because it's round. So I don't think they're doing multiple stampings. I wouldn't think, but if they were, you should have a replica of the first one. You
Mm-hmm.
can put it back on, and that should index. But
And
who knows?
I've seen some of the videos, where it just caught ones where they're making some, I don't know what part it is, and they do some weird secondary operations where
Oh
they'll
yeah,
undo things, or some of the details, say in a corner of a panel or something. They'll go back and do it on another machine, do some secondary operations, and it's like it's just hopefully you hold it in the right place kind of thing. There's no alignment to it. It's just put it up there and hope for the best and go
well,
on.
you just gave me. I saw a video this last week, and this is way out. This is kind of off the path here. Um, it was an industrial accident,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and it was over in China. And let me tell you, I don't even know how this woman stayed awake. The machine that she was operating was a press,
Okay.
and she was putting in pieces of metal. I don't know what the piece was, but she was putting in a piece of metal that was probably maybe 20 by 20
Mm-hmm.
inches, whatever. And it was in a jig. Like you
Mm-hmm.
put the piece of metal in, and then she had a button on the side that she could
Uh-huh.
hit, and it would and then I don't know if she had to take it out and turn it or that
Or
was it.
to pop it out the back or something. Yeah.
Right. Well, the process was she would put the piece in, and then she would lift it out and then take it to her right and set it on a
Uh-huh.
conveyor or something. Apparently, the piece that she was putting in got hung in the back.
Okay.
Let me tell you, she put her hand through that thing. She couldn't quite get it. She lifted it up, went in like that. Her chest hit the go button.
Oh.
Like there was no exterior
Yeah, no,
shell. It
there's
should have been a casing.
no double buttons or yeah.
Well, it should have had a collar around the button, so you had to go
Yeah.
inside of it to hit it. And I think it was an exposed button.
Mm-hmm.
She put her arm through there, hit the go button, and it went, and it didn't go back up.
Oh.
Apparently, I don't know how the function was. Like she has to hit the button twice. She's standing there, and you see her reach over, and she hits the button. It goes up. Didn't bust a skin or nothing.
But it
But
just
all of this was in
floppy
the
and
shape of that piece of metal, and she like just picked it up and walked, and that was the end of the video. But oh my
wow.
gosh, I was like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
didn't need to see that.
I knew a guy that used to work at years ago up in Pennsylvania and work at one of the companies doing rubber stuff, and they were they got the big rollers, and
Yeah,
they've got they're putting the rubber in there. You know how the rolls, and they'll start cutting it, and they'll pull it off, and they'll to mix it all together. And that's one of those machines. There's not enough money in the world for me to get to operate that thing because that sucks your arm in, and before you know it.
oh, I've seen that where it's just taking
So
arms off and even worse. But
yeah, those machines are so dangerous. And he
I
said,
know I saw
yeah,
one that
we
was
had it
like
happen
from
a few times.
I think it was in India, and it was like a carpet machine, and it had this big roller thing going, and the
Hmm.
guy, it was like spinning at 1,000 RPM or something, and something was on it, and he like just stuck his hand out to grab or like knock the piece
Hmm.
out of the way,
And it just,
and it grabbed him, and he went, I mean, like instantly
mm.
gone through that machine.
That's where I watched some of those videos, and the guys have gotten smart with some of that stuff that do in the presses. They got a stick with a magnet on the end.
Yeah,
Those guys have gotten smart. They're just you just put
yeah.
the stick in there. Don't put your
Keep
arm in
yourself
there.
out of the way.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We got Doyle says one of the areas I had to repair was from jacking the olds up using the rocker panel. Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's and the thing is, like the Oldsmobile, That's a full frame car.
Hmm.
Whereas the Mustang, the car is the frame. So when you have the stacked up pinch weld, that's what gives it
Oh,
its strength.
it's an airplane. It's
Yeah,
all essentially stressed skin with a
but
few
with
frame members.
but with no rivets.
Yeah.
Roger, my degree is in tool and die. All of your concerns are valid. A small press for repop can't do it in one shot, so secondary operations are required, and rely on the operator to get it right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's you like to think that it should be like this,
Hmm.
but I get it. As Roger's saying, there's things that can't be done in
Yeah.
one stamp. So
Yeah. My uncle was tool and die up in Detroit. They did a lot of stuff for for the car companies, AC Delco, Ford, GM, Chrysler, and they did the is it the hoop thing for the convertible Mustangs? It had the bar, the pop up that has that pop up bar in the back.
oh
For
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, they did that thing there. And I remember at the time he said, they would do something for them, they'd have it ready to go, and they said they ship the machine off to Ford, and then Ford would redesign something. They say, okay, they ship it back, we'll change this, change that. And they said they finally got to the point where it just said, we don't make a lot of these, we keep making changes to it. Why don't you guys just keep the machine here, and you guys can make out the few items that few that we need, because we don't need that many. That way,
right.
when we change the machine, it's already on your property. It'll save us
Yeah,
money. Just
yeah,
let you guys do it.
yep,
But that was neat. That was pretty neat because I would get materials. It's like the stuff the bumpers were made out of, the urethane stuff. I had sheets of that stuff, raw urethane for making bumpers,
yeah,
and I've still got a few, but it's like I didn't know what to do with it.
yeah.
It's neat stuff, but
You're in trouble.
I ate all
Jerry
the
says,
candy.
"Happy Halloween, Barry. Looks like you tricked us with your guest. Robert's supposed to be handing out candy. It's
We
all
didn't
gone, right?
we didn't buy any candy. We haven't bought any in a few years. So unless they want bags of Doritos or something, little bags of Doritos, got those. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, you can't hand out ice cream.
no. Well, actually, this week right now. It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
been low. It'll be low mid 70s, close to
Oh yeah.
80. Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Had the sunroof open, and oh yeah, couldn't
Oh,
ask for
Ray says no OSHA in China. Yeah, that's 100%
no.
correct. Yeah, it's there's tons of those videos out there too. There's just
Hmm.
it's kind of like you find a one-armed farmer. Don't ask him how that happened.
Yeah.
You don't want to know.
Well, it's like I watched some of the, mate, how India and Pakistan, they're making stuff there, and people in the U.S. don't realize is a lot of things that we buy in the store comes from factories like that. That it's just a little place, and they make whatever it is, the little part for somebody else, and that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's not a glamorous factory. It's just a little hole in the wall, and at the same time, it is amazing the ingenuity that they have.
Yeah.
What they can do with so little tools and materials, and it's amazing what they can build.
Yep. Okay. Rick, just started raining here. I guess Halloween is over. Thanks, Robert. Now I want Doritos. Yeah. I
I
could go
got
for
some.
some
I got some in
Doritos
the
as well.
kitchen. Yeah. Now, of course, we don't go through them really quick, so some of those bags might be a little old, but they're still good.
Yeah, the
They last.
expiration date, that's just a ballpark.
They're in sealed little bags. They're good for 6 months. They're fine.
Oh, that's fine. Doyle, when I was maintenance supervisor at Owens Corning, our presses had a wire gate you pull down to a secondary switch.
Yeah.
Both had to be tripped to operate. Yeah. Yeah. And that's just, like I said, they're making that stuff over in China. They don't care.
No,
They've
and
got
and it's one and that it gets in the way, and it's
Yeah.
one more thing to go wrong and a switch to go wrong. And they
Yeah.
just
You need to produce 500 of these today, or we're going to get somebody else to come in and make 500 of these a day.
yeah, and watching those people, and they're just putting them in like that, and it's going, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know how they can do it.
Well, I saw a video earlier today. It was of somebody, how do you, deskinning a coconut, let's say. So you got your coconut with the fibrous shell around it.
Uh-huh.
I've seen people do it with machetes, right?
Uh-huh.
This guy had a spear on a tripod, like a quad pod, on a tripod,
Okay.
three
Yeah.
quad.
Yeah.
It was a spear, like off a like a
Hmm.
heavy
And did,
piece of iron. No, he would like push on it sideways and then kind
oh.
of rotate it and then push on it sideways and peel it off. My thought was, if I slip,
Uh huh.
am I going to be impaled on this spear?
Or
You
I'm
know?
going to take my hand off or
Well,
something.
he had a cut resistant glove on, so he was
Oh,
safe with
okay.
that.
Okay. He
Yeah,
was safe then.
he was safe.
Yeah. We had a neighbor in Hawaii that used to take all that stuff from off of the coconut, the husk,
Coconut fiber.
the fiber. It'd be like in sheets in some areas. And she would do all sorts of artistic stuff with it.
Yeah,
So she would go up all collecting that stuff. But when we got a coconut in Hawaii, you took the coconut, you put it here, you took the hammer, you hit it right between the eyes, and you cracked it open.
right.
And if you wanted the milk, you drilled a hole in it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny. We talk about the coconut fiber. I don't know if you've seen the Oak Island
Uh,
treasure
yes,
series.
here and there, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, um, whatever it is. And they talk about finding coconut fiber on the
Hmm.
island and how they used it as a strainer, in essence, for the so-called water tunnels.
Hmm.
Um, I I've watched that show. I have watched it from the beginning, and it's like there's nothing here.
The one of those shows like that they might find stuff because there really was stuff there is Luzon in the Philippines.
Okay.
That's one of the islands of the Philippines where stuff was found. That was where the Japanese essentially buried all the stuff.
Oh, okay.
But a lot of that was found decades ago. I don't know if you remember Ferdinand Marcos and Imelda Marcos when they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of that was found in that time there,
Okay.
and then we couldn't go to the BX. We couldn't go to the commissary for like a month because they were there. It was an interesting time. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
Well, we have Steve's Money Pit checking in. Glad you're here, Steve. And Steve, I'm going to say Owlette. I don't know how else to say
I
that.
I want to say Willette.
Willette? Maybe it's Willette. Maybe. He can tell us. Is it Willette? I don't know. Floor pan from CJ total about $1,200.
Mm.
So are you talking all the pieces and parts? Is that what we're saying? You're saying to build the whole floor pan is $1,200 in parts versus 2,900. I think I'd build it myself.
Even a jig for one, would pay for itself at that point.
Well, yeah,
When you figure in, that thing's going to be a lot more to ship and
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so you were right on the name.
Okay.
Say it again.
Uh, I can't do it again now.
Willette.
Willette.
Yeah. Okay. Put you under pressure.
Yeah. If you weren't asking, not a problem.
Yeah. Oh, while we're talking about TV shows,
Oh, uh-oh.
okay, I have something else. And
Oh.
I had an email last week or so, and okay, so Steve is saying between will and wool. Okay, I don't. Okay, Willette. Okay, I give up. Anyway, I had an email a week or so ago from a TV company, a producer, whatever, or a casting director, I think is what the term is. And so they had sent me this email and said, "Hey, would you be interested in maybe participating in a show?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, why not?" So I emailed back and said I would be interested. Then we arranged a time to talk on the phone, and so we talked, and it was interesting because I had one other phone conversation with another TV show a few years back. And obviously that didn't work out, but this one it was about restoring stuff, and I was like, "Yeah." She said, "What do you like to do?" And I said, "Well, I like to work on cars. My focus is classic cars." When I say cars from the '60s, and she's like, "Well, do you do any other type of stuff?" And I said, "Well, like what?" And she was saying like restore a gas pump or a Coke machine or a pedal car,
Mm-hmm.
candy machine, something like that. And I said, I've done some of that, but I'm not really my
Mm-hmm.
go-to thing. Um, as it turns out, from what it sounds like, it's a reboot of the show American Restoration, and they're looking for people across the country that do that kind of stuff. I'm not against doing that kind of stuff, but I have so much car stuff to do that I don't know that I could push myself into that and say, yeah, I want to restore a pedal car, which, I mean, that would be fine,
Yeah.
but it would probably also weigh out as to what kind of revenue that I would get out of that process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's going to pay me a good sum of money to be part of that, well, maybe then I'll push the car stuff aside for a little bit. But
Well,
at this point, I don't think it's going to work
yeah,
out.
and I think they aim for that stuff because it's small stuff. It can be you can crank them out quickly.
Yeah.
You know, it's you can crank them out for the next episode. You can just do a
Well,
car,
what's
do a
funny
trick,
about it
do a
though,
whatever. Yeah.
I was looking at her profile set up on Facebook, and it said that she was casting for all these different shows, and one of them was, "Are you good at finding old cars that are, in like barn finds? Are you good at finding?" I'm like, "Wait a
Mm-hmm.
minute, why are you talking to me about that?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, now I can't say that I have a laundry list of stuff that I could pull up like that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a car thing. I could probably do something more with that. You know, it's kind of like finding this Mustang. Well, yeah, you can create a story. That's a lot of times what
Mm-hmm.
they do is they create the background, saying it's we found this in a barn, right? Well, did you, or was it your family member who just stored it for
Mm-hmm.
30 years because they forgot about it? So, anyway, we'll see. I'm not going to commit or hold my breath to anything. You know, I'm like, I'll let them try to talk to me
You,
and see
you,
what's
you
going on.
never know. You never know.
Steve's Money Pit. What's grilling tonight? Since Robert's on,
Uh, I did a rack of ribs a couple nights ago, but before that, I did a pizza on the grill.
you did a what?
I did a pizza on the grill.
Oh, a pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sent me a picture of that, and I thought it looked burnt in the picture, so I'm assuming it wasn't.
Was that the right one? Did I send you? I guess. Oh yeah. Well, go to Walmart. You know the ones that they have just ready to cook, the ones that
Yeah.
they make. Just take that, go to your pellet grill, turn it all the way up, throw it on the grates, let it cook. End of story.
Okay.
Just just throw it on there, and let it cook, and
Turn out good.
the bottom will get just a little bit crisp. Nice little crunch to the bottom of it. It turns out so much better than doing it in the oven. And it's a
Okay.
cheap pizza, but it works.
Let's see. Steve's asking Robert, were you Air Force? And I know you were a brat,
Yeah, my dad was Air Force. He was Air Force.
so
He
there we
was
go.
27 years. He
27. Well, again,
retired as a chief master sergeant.
nice. Good for him.
He couldn't go up any higher, and they closed the base. So he was like, "Yeah, I'm not moving because they're going to give you some really bad place to go." So they put him on. He was head of base closure team when they closed the base, and they
Well,
didn't close it. You know how that
yeah.
goes. It's Navy now.
Yeah. Steve saying, didn't producers approach you a few years ago? Yes, they did. There was a TV show. I can't remember the name specifically, um, but it was basically they would bring in. They would go to like some town, and they would have people bring their cars to a location. And the host is what they were interviewing me for, was to be the host of the show, which I think they made a huge mistake in my opinion. Um, the guy that they picked, the idea was they would bring a car and he would talk to them about their car, and then supposedly create some sort of value for it, like say it's worth X, whatever it is. But the guy they picked for the host, to me, he was like a deer in the headlights. If and I'm not. You all know my background. I've been around cars my entire life. I have so much experience with a variety of cars that
Hmm.
I feels like that's something I was kind of made for in that aspect. But this guy, he would ask these just dumb questions. Somebody would bring up a car, and it would be this custom built thing, and he didn't know what to ask. He didn't understand the process, and he would ask questions like, "What kind of tires are those? What? What are you talking about? Who? Ask him about the engine. What transmissions are you running?
Hmm.
Does he have disc brakes? Is it Willwood? Is it
Hmm.
what did you put in it? How much did you? What did you do? All that stuff." And this guy was just kind of just Well, that's a pretty color, you know. No, 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 no.
But speaking of suspension, though, that is one of the things I'm looking at ordering. I'm looking at finally. I want to get this body down to the point where get enough of the Bondo work and all the filler work and get that point. And I'd like to be able to at least roll it around at some point in the near future, on its own wheels. So I got to get front suspension. I got to get a rear end. So
Yeah.
yeah, I got that's off in the near future too.
What do you think about putting in the rear?
I'm going to get an Explorer rear end, Ford Explorer one, and then
Okay, but
shorten one axle.
you're putting in leaf springs.
Yeah, yeah, but
Okay.
it'll be just the Ford Explorer's got the leaf springs on the before they went to coil. They went to independent
Right, right.
suspension, but before that, you can get the rear end from them, and you just shorten one of the axles, you get the other short one, and you get disc brakes and posi, and
Well, we
it's all
may we may need to talk about something later.
okay.
We
Okay,
may. So,
and I
Jerry
also
says
got to
better
do
not be anything on the grill since I'm not at home to eat it. So,
no nothing on the grill, nothing on the grill.
okay.
But I'm gonna do and also when I get to that point when it's rolling, then it's like, okay, I'll modify the radiator support for the bigger radiator.
Yes.
Now, what I was going to do, you cut and moved yours out, which I like that, but I was kind of looking at it a different way. Instead of cutting and moving it over, take that flange and just roll it around, and then have the radiator flanges, the edge flanges mount right onto that.
Yeah, that could work.
It just I'll have to look at it and see if it'll fit, and but that's just you know and then I don't know which one to get because I don't know exactly where I need the radiator outlets to be. So I don't want to get that until I know it'll probably be again another Explorer type 302. But I don't know. I don't know for sure. So
Yeah.
I don't want to buy a radiator and then find out, oh well, I gotta yeah,
Yeah.
and have to buy it again, kind of thing. So
Doyle says he sent me an email. I don't know if you got it to the right email address because it's not showing up, Doyle. I've clicked on I refreshed it a few times and it's not showing up. So you may want to try to send that again, or maybe it's not bounced off the satellite yet. Ray Robert, since the temps are workable, we be seeing videos soon?
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope
That
so.
is the plan, and I've actually I got seam sealer in the other day because I needed more seam sealer. Bought that when it was on sale. I'm trying to get figure out what to order. Like I said, the front suspension is one of those things, and that's a big thing because what I'm going with is not the stock stuff. I'm going ones that actually have a real lower control arm because I don't like the strut rods. I just don't.
Right.
Um, and some things like that. Um, and then the problem is that too is I've got to finish, and she's probably watching, and she's going to appreciate this, but I've got to get the bathroom in the house finished.
Yes, get those
And
brownie points in while you
yes,
can.
and my back is already telling me, oh, you don't want to do that, but and
Um,
I'll put some pictures in because it's going to be a bunch of marble and tile, and it'll look really nice. And she said, well, you could film it and put it on there. Like, no, no, there's too many four-letter words when I'm doing that because I hurt too much bending over and doing it. And no,
yeah.
it's not family friendly when I do that.
Okay, so Doyle's pictures came through. So I'm going to try to get those downloaded real quick. You're talking about suspension, and I've mentioned before with the red car that I have that I was considering turning it into more of like a road course type of car if I were to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I talked about the idea that if I were to, let's say, use it as a parts car for the blue car.
Yeah.
My idea would being on the red car, it's kind of sacrificial because it's
Mm-hmm.
not it's already kind of missing stuff and
Mm-hmm.
suspension and it's all messed up.
Mm-hmm.
So it would not be that big a deal to modify that car.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm thinking, this car, the blue car, is so solid and straight. I don't know that I could make myself cut this one up and put in the Mustang 2 suspension and all that sort of thing.
I'm right there with you. I'd leave the blue the way it is, and on the red one, go for it.
Right.
And I should have done that on this one, but I didn't.
Yeah.
It was one of those, and I went that direction. And it actually, with as much as I had to replace, it actually would have been cheaper to do one of there's many there's so many of those suspensions, but I could have actually done that for about the same price or cheaper than putting all of the going all factory. But what I'm doing is the kit I'm using is kind of a hybrid of the old stuff, but with some upgrades, so
That's kind of where I'm leaning in some aspects. They make this like coil over
mhm.
strut type deal. I think Nick Moss is using it.
RRS or something like that. It's
Yeah, I
Australian.
don't know, but
It's not.
I might consider something like that
I would like that too. Yeah.
because I will say the right front lower control arm on this car is bent, and I think it's bent because somebody put a tow hook on it
Hmm.
and pulled it, and they bent it, and it's no good anyway. Let me pull up these pictures real quick so we can see this Cutlass.
Oh, that's looking good.
Yeah, I only put two pictures on, but it's nice to see
Hmm.
progress on stuff like that. So, uh, well done on that.
Hmm.
Well done on that, Doyle. Okay. Pull
Yeah,
up.
because I'm probably going to be doing a lot of finish up filler work on the rockers and some of the roof are the only real big areas I've got that are issues that I've got to spend more time with than I do on the other stuff. So
Yeah.
that and the rockers when I put that first stuff on there, Mondo on there, it was 100 and something degrees out here, and I start putting it on there, and it's like this was a bad idea because it was so hot it was setting up as I was putting it on there, and I just mixed it up, and it wasn't, and I put less hardener in there than I normally would too, and it's
Yeah.
just it was just like how that that way it's like okay, this is all got to come off. I got to go back to bare steel,
Yeah.
reprime it, you know.
Well,
So
talking about okay, let's get. Steve said the show was called Sticker Shock, and that sounds right to me.
okay,
And I don't know if they still have the same host that they started with or not. I don't know.
we haven't had cable in forever, so I don't.
Yeah.
But all the people ask me, have you watched such and such? No, I
Yeah.
they're too cheesy for me. If that makes any sense, it just whatever the show may be.
Shout out to Jeff.
Oh,
Thank you,
nice.
Jeff. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I gave you a few pennies the other day because I had to order a new phone.
Uh, Donna Rice checking in from Jeanette, Pennsylvania. Glad you're here, Don. And Terry Keithley. Hey, Robert, I have an Explorer and $200.
I'll keep that in mind. I've got a few options here that I can pick up. So if I can't find something here, I will definitely let you know.
Chris Greenaway is checking in. Says, hey, gang. Glad to hear Chris. Give you a bell. Hey, I got something else to show you.
Uh-oh.
I haven't even opened a box yet.
Uh-oh.
I've got this Wi-Fi endoscope.
Oh, you can do your own colonoscopy.
Yeah. Whee! I don't know how I'm going to do it while I'm unconscious, though. No, but somebody had suggested, I forget who it was, had suggested getting one of these.
Hmm.
Just found it on eBay. It might have been
Yeah.
Steve. I don't know for sure. And I went looking on Amazon. This was like $17.
And the problem is, which one do you pick? Because there's some. When I've
Well,
looked at them, there's so many.
I was looking at them too, and like I haven't done a video on this yet. But what I did like about this one, I don't know if I should open it yet or not.
Does it
Um,
have the double camera?
huh?
Does it have the double camera?
No.
I found one that had a camera going straight and a camera that was actually a 90-degree camera in the head. And then
Wow.
when I went to buy it, oh, they're out of stock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this one, it has a little. Oh, you can see it right here on the box. It's like a handheld module looking thing.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, so it doesn't plug into the phone. Yeah,
Well, it's a Wi-Fi,
yeah.
but there's a trigger on that, so that you can take pictures.
Okay, I
Okay.
got to get one of those then.
So if you snake it in, you can get it where you want it, and just and
Hmm.
it puts a picture, I guess, on your phone. so you can take
I
pictures of it as you go, which I
I
think is
haven't
cool.
seen one that does it that easy, because the ones I've seen, it's like, oh, you got your phone, you can push the button on your phone. It's like, yeah, but how am I? Okay, here, you hold the camera or you hold the phone and you do this, and I'll tell you when to push the button.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
tan scos, I think.
Okay. If the picture works really good on that, I'll have to grab one of those because I
Yeah,
like that
I haven't
button.
even opened it yet. So, because I wanted to
Yeah.
check the cowl out on the blue car,
Mm-hmm.
which I feel is going to be good. But
Because
yeah, I was just like, well, $17, okay.
well, she bought me one years ago. The little it's an all-in-one thing with the little camera on it. The little screen on it, but they've progressed so much since then.
Well, yeah, and the
Yeah,
thing
it
too,
works perfectly fine, but the picture on El Cheapo is better than that one now. It's
right?
just the way things are.
And the thing too, like if you're doing a handheld with the screen on it,
Mm-hmm.
it's great for your investigation. But like
Mm-hmm.
this one, I'm thinking, okay, I got it where I want it. Oh, let me look.
Mm-hmm.
I can zoom in or change, some of that. So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be pretty handy.
Of course, you don't have the thing where you can the
Yeah, it doesn't
knob
have
and
the
where you can,
remote. It doesn't have
yeah,
the
that's
steerable.
that's where you're talking into the thousands there.
Yes. Yeah, those aren't cheap.
And it's
Chris
not and it's
said,
not a digital camera. It's just a real borescope at that point.
yeah,
You know.
Borsco. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Chris says 12 hours are tough, but putting a dent in the Montego GT. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking I saw something the other day. I might have been on Facebook Marketplace. It was like a Montego or something for sale. I don't
I
remember
just
which.
I rarely ever see one. We
Yeah.
had a swap meet last Thursday or last Friday and Saturday, but it happened to rain, so was like, yeah, not going. That's
Yeah.
just not going to happen. And even if there was stuff there, it's over at the ballpark. It's a drive. It's a pain in the butt. It's traffic, and it's like, yeah, just it's not worth it. I'll wait till I think our first one's in late January, early February. So
Yeah.
I'll go to Summit and pick up a few parts too because I got a few things that I need. Some of the little plug kit for all the holes in the body, so I can do the undercoating and stuff like that, so I know how big they
I
are. And
think I have like at least maybe two of those kits. Because I'll order stuff. Oh, yeah.
it's like, oh,
Oh, I need that. Oh, yeah. Oh, I have that.
yeah, and it's like, and he goes, like, you go to put it away. It's like, oh, yeah, I got three of those already.
Yeah. I got three of them. Yeah. Um, and like I said, currently the blue Mustang is just, it's a template.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I need to work on right now. Because in 2 weeks, I should be having that Bronco body show up.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, it's
That's
supposed to be here on a Monday. So it might be
yeah.
sitting in here.
Well, and that's going to be interesting because it's a new body.
Yes.
It is just, that when you're filming it, it's like I want to look at how they did stuff and how it's
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
together and
I'll do an
things like
overview
that.
video of it and try to find flaws.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how I want to see what's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
problem. Um, I was going to say I have another little project that I'm probably going to be doing for a friend of mine. He's got a whatever year Ford Ranger,
Mm-hmm.
kind of burgundy in color, and the clear coat's coming off the roof,
Mm-hmm.
but just the roof, where the split lines are, it's all
Mm-hmm.
good, just the roof.
Hmm.
So he asked me about painting it, and I was like, yeah, I could probably do that. I could probably do that in here, honestly.
Yeah.
But I went to get some paint. And I didn't get PPG. I didn't get PPG.
Uh,
I
did
went.
did you have a heart attack at the price?
Huh?
Did you have a heart attack at the price?
Um, well, I don't know about that, but I can tell you that I bought a pint of whatever it was. Ford America FL is a paint code. A pint,
Mm-hmm.
pint, and they said this was their mid-grade paint, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the difference is between a low and a mid and a high. It's paint, but it's a clear coat that makes a difference.
It's
So,
color that goes on there. As long as it's the same color, as long as
right
it
now,
goes on and the same color doesn't come off, I'm
I,
happy.
I would guess there may be something with how opaque it is. Let's say how thin that paint may be
Mm-hmm.
overall, maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like I got a smudge going, but Anyway, how much do you think this pint of mid-grade off-brand? This is Capsy or something.
I've seen
Capsy
some
coatings.
like online ones where like just looking around, find on eBay somebody selling that stuff, and I want to say they were selling some of that for I don't know like $65 or something like that,
Well, they
somewhere in
gave they gave me the body shop discount.
there. Uh huh.
This was $77 for a pint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's there's a paint store in Oklahoma, and he also does he takes stuff out to the swap meets. You know, he goes to all the swap meets and sells stuff at the swap meets, and it's usually where I like to get my stuff from him because you know he's a paint shop, and he brings some stuff with him and like seam sealer, $10 a tube.
Yeah.
You can't beat that,
No.
and stuff like that. It's where I buy my lacquer thinners, where I buy filler, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And but he also has he brings a lot of like enamel paints, you know, single stage enamel paints. You know, they're great for underbody stuff because it's still a nice hard paint. It's essentially the modern version of what these cars would have had from the factory on the outside, and they're very good paints. And you can
Right.
get from gloss, and I've used it for just stuff, just different stuff.
Yeah.
And then he'll have some, you know, some urethanes and some of that stuff. He'll bring out the affordable stuff, you know, that the average person can afford. And there's nothing wrong with the quality of it. I mean, I have no complaints whatsoever. And the enamel stuff that I bought, like I'll buy the like black, you know, I'll buy black enamel paint and use that for like these springs or, you know,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. And let me tell you, that stuff is really durable. And when I want to say a quart of that, it wasn't bad, but they have he'll have kits sometimes in a like bunch of different colors. A little over $100 for a gallon kit,
Oh, that's not bad at
and
all.
that's the you know the gallon with the you know give or take you know 100 depending on which one you get, you know for the paint, the hardener, and some reducer, and it's like that's not a bad deal. You know, I'll do that with my trailer when I repaint the trailer. I'll just get you know one of those gallon kits, you know wet blast it. I've got the sandblaster for the pressure washer. Do the whole trailer, prime it, paint it. But you know, I'll never do that. That will never happen. So it's
Yeah. Yeah. I know how that goes.
yeah,
Car Guy Troy says, Happy Halloween, all. Glad you're here, Troy. And Chris, it's easier to hoard parts than build cars. I have a guy in my area that can completely, I guess, build a sister car to his Montego, but he won't sell anything. I don't blame him because he can't get those parts back.
yeah.
Um,
And a friend of mine, I know a guy that's up the road from me, older guy, and he's collected trucks, Ford trucks for decades. And he had two pieces of property, one on each side of the road there. And on the one over there, when you're going down the road, you kind of see over a little over the hill, it would just be truck after truck after truck after truck, all in a line. And then he's moved them over to his other place, and he used to get these things for $50 a piece because nobody wanted them. You know,
right.
those mid '70s
Yeah.
Ford trucks. You know, if they were like, yeah, you know, I'd haul it off for scrap because nobody wanted it. It
Right.
had no value for so many years. And I don't know what's going to happen to him when he's gone. I, I, there's a few cars of his I'd like to have.
Yeah.
If I ever get over there one of these days, I'll take some pictures. He's got the whatever the Ford delivery thing, the big thing, almost like a kind of like I wouldn't call it a hearse, but it's just a big box thing. More of not the car, but more of the commercial type vehicles that they had. And I don't know what
Uh,
they were called, but it was you know, but it was just
like a
you know,
sedan delivery type thing? Or are you talking about like the van truck thing?
it's something like that, yeah. And
Where it's built like a big Suburban?
it's been 30 years since I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, I can remember it there, and I remember it was this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been a long time since I've seen it because he keeps all that stuff in a certain barn, and then I know he's got a 60, I think it's a 65 convertible Mustang, straight six, and he's got bunches of stuff.
Yeah.
And the problem would be is this: if he ever said, "Oh, here you can have it all," I'm like, I
Now
need the
what?
property too. I don't have anywhere to
Yeah.
put it.
Yeah. That's the hard part.
But he doesn't part
Doyle
with anything.
Doyle says, have you ever used TCP Global Paints? I do get my sandpaper from them, always free shipping. I probably have used TCP at some point, but it's not usually not my go-to because I try to use PPG when I can. And like the Bronco, it's going to get PPG products on it. But like this little Ford Ranger deal, it's going to be the off-brand stuff. So,
And I've used a lot of Kirker brand stuff, which Kirker makes a lot of paints for a lot of other companies. So I think the stuff at Summit is made by them. I can't prove that,
right.
but there's, when you put two and two together, it's kind of like it kind of looks like it. That's where it comes from, and a bunch of other ones.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, it's a good quality paint.
Yeah.
I don't have any problems with the Kirker brand stuff at all.
Chris Greenaway saying Econoline. She's talking about the like Econoline van line.
No, this was way before that. Yeah.
Okay.
This would have been, this is, like I said, Model A, Model T age ish.
Oh,
okay. In that era. So it was the bigger, not the regular,
I know what
pedestrian
you're talking about. Like they used them for, they were like a
delivery
van
truck
version of a Model A.
Yeah. It's just a delivery truck.
Delivery truck. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah. And one of these days, you and I, we need to go up to Detroit.
Oh,
We need to go to Henry Ford Museum
I'd love to.
because you get to ride around in them too. They have the what is it? The 100 millionth car is in the little building there,
Yeah.
and you get the little wrist thing, and they'll go out and they'll take you. They just drive around the place, and you can do it as many times as you want. And they have some really early cars, some pretty old ones that they still drive.
Yeah.
And it's cool because all the parts and stuff that they need, they make them there. They make as much stuff in-house for the entire village.
Wow.
It's like all the, they need wrought iron stuff for whatever, because they have the machine shop there. They make as much as they can.
Yeah.
It is a cool place. It really is. It is definitely worth going to.
I would love to do it.
But it's a day for the museum. You could do the museum and the car museum in a day, because the car museum is a separate museum now. So you could do the main museum, the car museum, and another day for the village, and then another day for the assembly plant
Yeah.
tour. Because the village, think of it as like going to Six Flags. It's this big park full of, all houses and stuff. And once you get there, you're like, that's here.
Yeah. Well, I've heard a lot about that. Like even the original building for the Wright brothers, when they were building their stuff, they moved that to that location and stuff
The
like
house,
that. So.
the house and the shop are both there. The original house and the original shop. And the best part is the Edison stuff. They moved from New Jersey, from the Menlo Park. They moved the buildings and the dirt, because he said, I want the dirt too. So they brought the dirt, put the dirt there, and then put the buildings back on the original dirt.
Car guy Troy Eastwood, epoxy primer any good? Never used a paint gun, but need to get something on one of the cars. Instructions say 1-to-1 mix. I would say Eastwood epoxy primer is a good product.
And again, that could be the same as the Kirker kind of thing too.
Right.
I don't know for sure, but I've never seen anything bad from them.
Yeah, I think anything Eastwood puts out is probably going to be a good product. So good question. Good question. I could tell that it's been an hour and 40 minutes, and I need to get in the house and get something to eat, because I haven't eaten any supper yet.
Yeah, I haven't had anything either, and she's not here, so I didn't cook anything. So
yeah, we got Doritos.
That's probably what it's going to be. You go through, it's like, I don't want to cook anything. It's like, oh, I do have little frozen omelets. I can do that.
There you go. Okay. Well, I'm going to call it a night then.
All right.
I'm going to let you go, Robert. And I'm glad you were here and able to share some information. And we're looking forward to another video from you before too long.
Yeah, let me get some more stuff ordered. And I am not going to film me doing body work. I'm just going to say that because me doing body work is like doing drywall work. I can do it. I'm slow at it, and I have to redo it more than once.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I get it.
It'll just be done.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, you do the careful editing where it says, I started, oh, look, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's like on TV. Yeah.
All right. See you later.
All right. We'll see you. Let's see. Doyle says, Car Guy Troy, that's what I put on the Cutlass. What I painted last year sanded easily. Okay, good information. Thank you, Doyle. And Michael Pagliarini, I have been using Kirker products for 25 years now, never had any problems. Thank you for that, Michael. Okay, I'm going to call it a night. I'm ready to go get something to eat and then probably get to bed before too long. So I want to thank everybody for participating. And even though it's Halloween and you're doing other things, I'm glad you were here. So I'll be back next Monday, same time, 7 o'clock. Maybe we'll have something new to talk about. And until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.